So here's the problem with growing an e-commerce gifting brand on Amazon or any platform. Now, full transparency, I've only done this on Amazon, but I'm pretty sure it will be a very similar thing, whether you're doing it on TikTok or Amazon. So who am I? I scaled a gifting brand. We predominantly did hampers and bundles and that type of stuff. I scaled that to the year that and then I sold it, sorry. So I sold it at the start of this year for a six-figure sum. And the heights of December, we did almost $250,000 just in December. So with really, really good margins on that. The whole year's margins was about 17%. So yeah, I know what I'm talking about here on this particular topic. And I want to talk about the issues and the problem with scaling, excuse me, a gifting brand on Amazon predominantly, but obviously it's going to have the same effect on any site you do it on, really. So I think people look at the gifting niche and they think it's a great opportunity because of seasonal things like Christmas, for example. But there's a few things, in my experience, that you need to take into account that could hinder your growth, right? And this is not, saying anything against people that do gifting brands. I actually manage in my agency, ClickFox. I manage the PPC and actually, have I got any full service gifting clients? Maybe one that's about to sign on for full service as well. But at the moment, we manage a lot of the PPC for gifting brands, and they can be really successful. So it's not taking away anything from them, but I'm just giving you an insight with the issues that come with them. So from my first-hand experience. So number one is the fact that it is a seasonal business. Now, this has got major positives when it comes to Q4, because you literally get like a massive boost and you can pay yourself a nice bonus if you do it correctly in January, like I used to as well. I used to give myself a nice big lumpy bonus after December in January, but that is not an easy thing to prepare for if you want to do it properly. When you're building up to Christmas, preparing for the end of October, but pretty much the middle of November until the 25th of December and beyond, that can be a very stressful period. It sounds like it's great, and there is benefits to it, like I just said about paying you a bonus, but my God, do you work for that bonus? I would much prefer, having gone through this business for many years, right, in a gifting niche, I'm now building my business outside of a gifting niche, although one of the brands I'm building right now, you'll be able to use it as a gift, right? And we have some gifting products. Generally, they're all year round brands. And the reason I've done that is strategically. One, it was because I personally found it too stressful having a gifting brand, right? And there's many more points I'm going to talk about gifting brand around PPC and stuff like that, how it can impact you. But just specifically now, let's talk about this part here, which is the actual gearing yourself up for and preparing for mentally and dealing with the day-to-day running of a gifting brand when it comes to preparing for Q4 can be very stressful. I put down last Q4 for my brand, I put down about 100 grand, 70, 80 to 100 grand's worth of cost of goods stock purchased. So I completely drained my bank account. I sent all of that stock in. And we had to get it all prepped. And obviously there was issues with logistics because we were doing bundles and hampers and that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of moving parts. It can be very, very stressful, right? So gearing up for that particular thing and sending all that stuff in and just hoping and praying that it sells, that's not even the issue. Because generally, if you know anything about Amazon, as long as you've got good selling listings and you've got all that evidence from past data, it should sell. But Amazon pulled 2 of my listings just before the heights of December, right? They pulled them. I think it was just before, I think it was about the 8th or 9th, don't quote me on that, of November 2024. They actually pulled 2 of my listings for checks, right? Luckily, we managed to get them back in and they were okay. But they pulled my items and there was hundreds and hundreds of units, and we had thousands of units bought that were going to be sent in. I had to stop that whole system of them getting sent in because Amazon pulled my items for a check. Now, I was really lucky because they checked them and then they confirmed they were okay and then allowed me to sell them. Sometimes they check them. And if let's say, for example, you've got a biscuit hamper and you've put two of the same chocolate biscuit when it was meant to be a variation of 12 exactly as it is, dot, 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 dot. They may pull that, and they actually did that for one of my hampers, thinking about it now. They pulled one of them, and I never got it back. And luckily, that was only 500 units. I say only, still a lot, but compared to the volume we were selling, it was okay. But they pulled a couple of other of my hampers, and luckily, they allowed them to continue. But they were my best sellers. And if they pulled them and didn't give them back, we would have had an issue there. So what I'm saying is it can be a very stressful period, not only buying the stock, conducting the logistics of that stock and getting it in and paying for it up front, all that prep, but then it's the sitting on the FBA fulfillment stock. So that can be quite a scary thing. If you can do seller fulfilled prime, if you can do it from your own warehouse, you're laughing. Like that in my experience, in my opinion, that's the main hurdle. But yeah, either way you do it, it's still a scary thing to sit on all that stock, right? Because you have to do that for a seasonal business. Whereas if you've got a big business that's selling all year round, it's a lot less stressful because you're constantly dripping in stock, Anyway, but point number 2 is that when you've got a gifting brand, it's very opinion based. And once again, there's very successful ones, and this is quite a low-hanging fruit niche to do gifting because there's loads of opportunity in it. But one of the downfalls that comes with loads of opportunity in a gifting niche is the fact that it's an opinion-based product buy, which means that when it comes to Amazon PPC specifically, or whatever platform you're using, when it comes to your ads, it's really hard unless you're outside of a really high gifting period like Christmas, like Easter if you're selling them types of products, like Father's Day if you're selling gifting products in Father's Day for men, you'll be fine. But outside of that, it's difficult when it comes to advertising and PPC. And in my experience, running a PPC agency and also doing this myself, owning a gifting brand myself and scaling that up, it's really hard to get a really good conversion rate and great PPC unless your listings are like at a really low price, you've got a really well-known brand, you've got external traffic, all that sort of stuff, and your product is just spot on. But because it's opinion-based, what people do when they're browsing on Amazon and browsing on these platforms is they're looking at hundreds of different products and they're clicking. What do you do when you look for a gift for your nephew or your son or something like that? On Amazon, if you've ever looked at it and you need a last minute present, you're like clicking in here, you're like scrolling to page 748. That's what I do anyway. So that's why there's a lot of opportunity, and that's, and there is a lot of opportunity in this, and once again, not taken away because it's a great opportunity. I made tons and tons of money, from this. And I'm very grateful for it. But when it comes to things like advertising, you're never going to have an amazing ACOS unless your product is top 10, 10 out of 10, right? You're never going to have an amazing ACOS. Sometimes you will struggle. Outside of seasonal times, you're going to really struggle with the PPC. Sometimes it's going to be harder, as I say, to get that ACOS down, to get the conversion rate down, or just really master that. You're only really going to thrive in the seasonal times. So you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with the fact that you're going to have 1, 2, 3 months occasionally where sales are down, PPC's crap. You can do the best you can at it, but PPC is not going to be great when people aren't eagerly looking for gifting products, right? Because they're scrolling through so many click, right? That's just what happens. You have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with taking the risk on your stock as well, and knowing that you've just got to gear up for these seasonal times. And when you launch products, this is point number 3, when you're launching products in a gifting seasonal niche, you have to be okay with the fact that if you're not launching it in the seasonal time that you're preparing for, then you have to be okay with the fact that it may look like it's a bit of a flop. It may look like it's not been that successful because you're just trickling in sales. But what I did in my business was launched a ton of gifting products in the previous year to the one that I just had before I sold the business. And although it did not feel like any stretch of the imagination, we were successful then. When it came to Christmas, we smashed it out the park and I felt very successful. And then the person that I've sold the business to is having the best sales year we've ever had this year. And that is testimony, not one for them, obviously, like we're now managing the ads, the PPC for my old business, and we've been firing them up, much better than I ever did, to be honest, because I was full focused on my clients rather than my own PPC. So one is the PPC that we're smashing for them, but two, it's the fact that I launched tons of products last year that are now getting great success because they've had that juice of Q4, that organic rank, and the PPC is pushing them through for this year. And every seasonal trend we get around, like Father's Day, Mother's Day, and then just general selling when it's okay, and this Q4 as well, are all just much higher, right? At the moment, they're much higher, and that is because of the things that I just mentioned. So you've got to be okay with the fact that sometimes you're going to launch a product and it's not going to be successful overnight because it's a gifting brand, okay? So they're the 3 points that I've just run through there. I wanted to just share that. Amazing opportunity. I've made tons and tons and tons of money from having a gifting brand, so do not be disheartened. I just want to share the realities that I don't hear people talk about. If you want to contact me, if you want to contact my agency, we're actually full at the moment, but if you want to be on the waiting list to join my agency where we manage PPC and we grow brands on Amazon, full service, there's a form below, maybe a website below. We've had a website built. It's kind of half built. Yeah, check out the links below. See you soon.